JB here. Thursday, January 30th, 8:57 a.m. Talk about the markets. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P futures pointing to a bounce. Let's see, 0.3% to the upside after yesterday's Fed-induced pullback. I wouldn't even call it a Fed-induced pullback because I was looking at 2:30. The SPY was at 601.70 or so, and we closed at 601.81. So pretty much there was no movement from 2 o'clock to the close. Of course, there were some gyrations in between, but the headlines say the markets fell after the Fed kept rates the same, which not the case, but big day today. We have Apple earnings after the close. This morning we had GDP numbers came in weaker than expected. GDP is like the most backward-looking number, right? It's the previous 3 months of economic data, and usually that's revised anyway. So to me, it's like people sometimes they fixate on GDP. I'm like, oh, that's such a backward-looking number. But if you heard Fed Chair Powell yesterday, some of his commentary, mostly he he's like a broken record. We have dual mandates of full employment and stable pricing. That's pretty much what he said 37 times. But then the one time he did talk about what it would take to cut rates, it sounded like employment, right? So if there was some snafus in employment or the economy. So it's almost not that you want to see weaker than expected data, but if there's anything that's going to really put some wind in the sails on the market, it'd probably be some weaker data. So GDP number, although it's very far backward looking, maybe that's a little hint that maybe some data might start coming in weaker. But needless to say, the March expectations for the Fed cutting rates is down to like quarter percent, 25% probability. So that keeps ticking down. And, at some point, I think that'll reverse, but we'll have to see. So anyway, the SPY was under. So at about at the 2 o'clock when the statement came out, they had removed a little bit of wording in regards to getting closer to their inflation target or their confidence. I forget exactly what the wording, but that was removed in their release. So people construed that as extremely hawkish. So you saw the SPY went from 601.79 or so, and we broke under 600 for about 15 minutes, churning around 599, and then found a bounce once he started to talk. And here we are this morning. So after the close, yesterday we had Meta, Microsoft, a slew of names, ServiceNow, IBM. So with Microsoft, their numbers, strong numbers. It seems like Microsoft always posts great data, but it seems like a little weaker than expected cloud data, and then their guidance is a little off. So because of that, the stock is down in the pre-market. It's one of those names that seems to always bounce. You see it down in the pre-market, and it seems to bounce as the day goes on. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a bounce there. I don't think I'll play it because it's not a name that I watch as closely as some of these other names, but I wouldn't be surprised if it trades back. I would say red to green, but maybe it gets a bounce here in the 420s. That's the first one. Second one was Meta monster quarter, monster beat. But then I think it seems like, especially the last couple of quarters, the concern is always about their cost and how much they're going to spend on AI and all this other stuff. So, I mean, it's higher here in the pre-market. Hopefully, if it holds, it was all the way up I think it hit 711 in the after our session, 716. So maybe that's where it will head to today. And then also after the close yesterday was Tesla. Tesla's I wouldn't say it's funny, but it's here it is at 407, and all the analysts, especially the ones who are bearish, are just shaking their heads like, wait, they missed the earnings. But it's similar back when Tesla, 8 years ago, when they weren't profitable. It was a going out of business story, right? People thought they're going to go bankrupt. They weren't going to be able to competitive. So now that they're actually profitable and maybe growth has slowed a bit, now the bears have changed their narrative, right? So it's just a car company and they're missing revenues and profits, right? So now it's like they don't look to the future. And, they talked about, so you have Musk, and I always talk about Musk, and, people say, oh, you're a Musk fanboy. I'm not. He always comes out with these crazy predictions or expectations or, hints of things, right? And to me, if you're a good leader, you set the bar high, right? You don't set the bar. You don't say, hey, to be better, I'm going to do just as good as I did yesterday. No, you're going to set the bar higher than yesterday, right? So that's what he does. And of course, the bears don't like it because a lot of times he misses those targets, or the bears love it because they can use that as hey, this is why he's lying to investors, whatever. But he talked about being the largest company on the planet. I think combined, all four other companies combined, whatever he said. And they talked about the Optimus opportunity, the robots. So people always talked about Tesla, especially when they were bearish. They would compare it to all the other car makers. Those were the big headlines. Tesla's largest market cap combined of all the car manufacturers, right? But if you look at it, it's not, right? And it's energy, it's AI, it's information, and then it's going to be the Optimus. So rants for other days. I mean, they're semi, uh, but that one's higher. So I don't know, where that heads today. It's not one I'm going to trade either, but it's funny. I always think of the analyst from Gordon Johnson who has like a $22 price target, always coming out say argue with me on CNBC, but it's like the stock market is the price of the stock is who wins the argument, right? So all right, rants for other days, but yeah, after the close today, Apple will be an important one. And considering where Apple's been, I mean, even inline numbers, it probably bounces. So again, not going to trade it, but hopefully that comes in line, and then I think maybe the SPY can work its way to 610 next week. Also, some great historicals, and Ryan Dietrich always posts good stuff. But if you look at January, very good probability, 87% odds that the market ends higher. And then greater than 2%, 84%. It's 76%, excuse me. 76% probability the market heads higher for the year if we head higher in January. So that's pretty good odds, right? So we have that going for us. All right, so that's the market. The VIX, despite the sell-off yesterday or the move lower, the VIX was pretty much flat. And also small caps. And small caps, the futures are pointing higher this morning, almost up 1%. So looks like maybe finally we'll get some outperformance in the small caps. And the IWM, which can't break its 50-day moving average, maybe today's the day, 229 and change. We're sitting over that this morning. All right, so now really quick individual names. And you look, so first Adobe still pinching, tried to get 444 at the noon hour, pulled back. Still like this one to break out. You had ServiceNow earnings after the close yesterday, I guess caused some weakness, and maybe Microsoft, I don't know, maybe Microsoft earnings too, but it looks like it's bouncing here. It's up 444 here in the pre-market. It breaks that 445. I think it's off to the races. So I'm not going to add any more strikes. I'll just continue to hold my 460s. Arista Networks finally added some strikes yesterday after staring at it Tuesday and when it was in 104s. So it turned all the way up to 110 and back down into the 107s, closed at 107.84. Well, not the ironic part, but premiums are ramping after the Fed, like about 1 o'clock, all of a sudden the premiums started to go up on my strikes. Next thing you know, they're up over 100%. Then it sold off into the close. It's 112 here, actually 113 a second ago in the pre-market. My calls will probably be up a couple 100%. So I'll look to close some of those out at the open and I'll ride the rest. Call me crazy. I think if it holds 112, it's going to 118 plus into tomorrow. So I'll possibly hold the rest for that outcome. Shopify, another one, call me crazy. I think it's headed over 120 before the week is out. Still holding the last of my freebie calls. Nice trader so far this week. So sitting here at 117. It looked like it was going to break out in the morning yesterday. It was over 118, then just gave it all back. But maybe some churn, flat session yesterday, considering the move the day before. Real like that one for upside. MDB, which, disappointing, unfortunately, because the cloud data came in weaker than expected. And you see Snow and MDB and some of these other names in the cloud space weaker in the pre-market. But it's another name. I think it might reverse course here after the open. So still have my couple of the calls I added for earnings after close yesterday. I might look for some more strikes, especially if it goes red to green, 278's the handle there. So if it breaks through that, don't be surprised. Depending on how much the premiums are, I'll look to get some spec calls there. And then AMD, it was moving higher yesterday. They did a tweet talking about DeepSeek, right? But AMD is always like it's the inexpensive stepbrother of NVIDIA. And if this, DeepSeek narrative of same efficiencies, lower cost, there's demand out there. So are the people is it going to be a boon for AMD? I don't know, but I see an opportunity for at least a short-term bounce. I thought, I was going to grab some yesterday, but then once it hit 118, it just couldn't break through. If maybe it breaks 119 at the open, I might look for some mid 120 strikes. They report earnings February 4th. I think that's Tuesday. Premiums are kind of expensive, but if it breaks into 120s, I might look for some 130s to play some premium build into earnings next week on AMD. Trying to think of some other names. Not much to update here on Roku or TripAdvisor. Roku was pretty much flat yesterday. Same with Trip. One of those days, those will start to break out. Joby, I put on the watch list. It's been in a tight range for the last couple sessions. So one of these sessions that breaks out, the good thing, well, not the good thing, but premiums have come down on the April strikes. So maybe the 12s look interesting on a risk reward basis. I think they're 35 cents by 40 cents. So might look to get those. And then on a side note, just horrible tragedy over there with in Washington D.C. with that airline. Just go live life like tomorrow. You never know tomorrow's given to you, right? So just horrible stuff. Things you can't control. You can look both ways crossing the street. You can do things. You can wear a seatbelt, but then there's things that happen that just outside of your control. Just tragic. You just feel horrible. So thoughts and prayers out to families and the folks and all that stuff. And that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.